So first, let me tell you a little bit about me. I've been restructured out 3 times in my career. Um, Again, no fault of my own, company not doing great. This was all pre-COVID, by the way. One time included the last downturn back in whatever that was, 9, 10, 11-ish. But 3 times it's happened to me. So when you think about what you're going through as a job seeker, I always tell my clients there's nothing you can say to me that's going to shock or surprise me because I've absolutely been there. I've also, as a result of those restructures, I made 4 industry transitions. I chose not to stay in my industry uh, and make some fairly major pivots when I bounced back after those. And that includes multiple role transitions. So I went from product development to marketing to merchandising, retail to wholesale to direct sales and franchising. So I found a way to leverage everything about my career to getting what I want in my career. And I will share some of that with you today. Um, Over the course of all of that, I also achieved 12 career promotions. So I'm sharing that to encourage you that just because you find yourself in a transition doesn't mean that you have to go backwards. In fact, this could actually be the time where you decide, you know what, I'm going to give myself a promotion. I'm going to aim, I'm going to stretch, I'm going to go for that job that would have been the job had I stayed in my previous role. So think about that. Those promotions can happen internally, but they can also happen as a result of where you find yourself in a transition. And so I decided after the last time I was restructured out to become a career strategy coach because I've successfully navigated career change, navigated disruption, and I decided, it's time to put that all together and help other people do what they need to do in those moments. So I'm going to talk about why people get hired by talking about marketing first. And I hinted at this a little bit. I have a marketing background, but there are some amazing parallels between why people buy things and why people get hired. First of all, when people are buying products, it's because it solves a problem at a physical level. That's the basic level, which products and services solve problems. Now, a brand is doing it really well if they're also solving an emotional problem for that customer. And they're doing an even better job if they're solving something at a philosophical level. Let me go into that a little bit more. So here's a problem that we've probably all experienced, and that is a yard that looks terrible. It needs help. Physically, it needs to be weeded, it needs to be cut, trimmed, more plants put in, plants taken out, overgrowth cut back, whatever it is, we've all had that experience. And there is a problem, there's a solution, right? We could buy a lawnmower, we could hire a service. There are solutions, but the company that wins our business is the one that understands that part of this problem is the embarrassment and shame that we experience every single time we drive up to our house. If a brand can acknowledge that, then now they're getting our attention. And even better, if they address it on a philosophical level, and by that it means the shouldn'ts of life. It shouldn't be so hard to have a yard that looks amazing, a yard that looks great. A brand, a service that addresses these 3 needs in a consumer is winning. And trust me, we've all purchased mediocre products who have done a great job of marketing because they're addressing these needs. There are great products out there that don't win as much business because they're strictly focused on that top level physical need. The reason this works is because we're addressing a problem, we're relieving an emotional pain point, and we're also creating a value add experience. Think of these 3 things: addressing a problem, relieving an emotional pain point, and creating a value add experience. These three things are also in play inside the mind of a company, inside the mind of a hiring manager. So let's take it a step further. Why will they hire you? Well, let's talk about the problems and pain points first. Now, job descriptions translate to pain points and outcomes. Think about that. If you're looking at a job description, it's because they need things done. And the reason they need things done is because there's a pain point. They need someone who's organized, because being unorganized causes a lot of disruption and chaos inside of a company. Maybe it's a product outcome or a solution for their clients or customers. That's why it's part of the job description. So when you look at a job description, I want you to think about why does this role exist? What purpose does it serve inside the company? And what problems does it solve? Because your goal is to uncover the problem so that you can be the solution to that problem. There's the big overall problem of the role in itself, and there's the individual elements of the role that are pain points that you can solve. So remember that. And the way you do that is you focus on your transferable skills and accomplishments. How do you identify your transferable skills? You know, we've heard it over and over. This is a really important thing. You've got to have it. You need to focus on it. But it's a little bit elusive because no one teaches us how to focus on our transferable skills, how to identify them, and how to connect the dots between an accomplishment or something about the job description to a transferable skill. So you can start that process for yourself by asking yourself some questions. And I recommend writing this down as you reflect on your previous role and even on your career as a whole. When you think about what problems did I solve? And I'm a big fan of writing this down. Get a piece of paper and actually physically write it, because there are studies that show when we handwrite things, we tap into higher levels of creativity and critical thinking skills, and it'll start to flow. It'll start to remember some of those things. But you solved problems, and what were they? Write those out in detail. Also think about, what are your strengths? Is there a particular strength that you have in the team that nobody else has? What would be missing? Another way to ask it is, what would be missing if you were gone? If you left that role, where's a gap now? This is a good way to kind of tap into your strengths. They could be communication, they could be leadership, anything. I would say, think about a strength that you have that maybe is a hard skill that you're really good at. Well, then now go deeper. Why are you good at that? Why is business analysis really a good fit for you? That is a kind of a hard skill, but the reason that you're good at it might be because you're very orderly, that you see patterns in things, that you are very structured, intuitive. These are all things that relate to why business analysis is a strength. What did you do? Sometimes it's just physically what you did and how you show up on the job. It could be in those conversations that you're having, whether that's email, or someday we'll be back to those yummy hallway conversations, right? Where stuff just gets done and questions get answered as you're passing, somebody in the lunchroom. But for now, think about the things that you did and what that impact was. Back to this behavior. How did you show up? Are you the friendly person? Are you the person that everybody goes to when there's a problem to be solved? Why do they do that? Perhaps it's because you're a great communicator. Perhaps it's because that you have a lot of empathy, or emotional intelligence. Think about the way you behave and interact with people is a clue to your transferable skills. And then, what did you contribute? I always say, we've got lots of formulas for figuring out those stories that we're going to tell in an interview. You can call them, smart stories, situation, action, results, however you want to organize it. What it all comes down to is, what did you contribute? So if you're having a hard time thinking of that, start with something that you feel really, really good about, an accomplishment or contribution that just fills you with a sense of pride and just, nostalgia even, because it just feels so good. If you start with that first, you're actually turning on chemicals in your brain that will elevate your thinking to higher levels of critical thinking skills. And so when you're doing that, when you're feeling good and you're tapping into your brain physiology, literally how it works, then it'll be easier to start to think of accomplishments that you're really proud of. Now reverse engineer it back to, what actions did you take in that accomplishment, in that contribution? Write those down, and then take it back a step further and think of, why were we even doing this in the first place? That's a great way to construct those stories about yourself that connect your accomplishments to your transferable skills. So let's just make this practical. So I've got a little tidbit of a job description here of an executive assistant. Now, this would be what the executive assistant does day to day: reports to the CEO, prepares reports, organizes documents, creates presentations, manages the office budget, implement and maintain procedures, deal with a wide variety of correspondence, complaints, and a lot of cross-functional communication. So these feel like these are all pain points to be solved. These are all outcomes, and they feel very task oriented, right? But there actually are some transferable skills showing up in this job description. Now, I've listed some common ones here. There could be more, but adaptability, organization, communication, problem solving, teamwork, and leadership are the ones that I've identified. So let's relate those to these tangibles, the responsibilities of this role. Now, someone who prepares reports, files and organizes documents, and creates presentation is exhibiting the transferable skill of organization. So when someone says, hey, give me an example of this, when are the times that you've prepared reports and files? You can say, well, one of my strengths is that I'm really organized. I have a way of putting things together and seeing things in a way that helps other people and creates opportunities for removing chaos and creating order. Right? I'm just spitballing, but that could be something that you would talk about, and you would relate it to not just, well, there were, X number of documents I did per year, and I created 7 presentations. Those hard metrics are great, but the reason that you were successful at doing those had a lot to do with your organizational skills. Well, let's look at another one. Dealing with a wide variety of correspondence, complaints, and inquiries is a really good indication that you're adaptable and flexible and that you're great at problem solving. See how this is working? Like, these are the tangibles, but your intangibles, your transferable skills are showing up in your ability to do these bits of the role. And then if we look at cross-functional communication with staff and clients, again, I think this is another great one for adaptability. Clearly, communication could show up here as a transferable skill associated with that. But I also think it shows your teamwork. The fact that you are aware of the pain points inside the organization and you're able to bring everybody around through cross-functional communication to persuade them to all get on board and connect to a common purpose. The fact that you can do this cross-functionally is a great sign of your teamwork ability. Now let's talk about the value add experience, right? This is that third level of marketing yourself, if you will, why they will hire you, just like why someone purchases something that gives them a value add experience. And that is, be the guide, not the hero. So I got my little Lego guys here, but this is the key to having those conversational interviews especially when you want to get out of convincing energy. You don't need to convince anybody of anything. You can actually be the guide in the situation versus the hero, the guide that shows them solutions to the problems that are listed on that job description. If we think about the relationship that Luke Skywalker had to both Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi, the hero of the story was Luke. But these other guys came into his life and provided a picture of what success looks like. They were the guide. This is the same thing I want you to consider when you're going into an interview. Think about it like this. If someone in your company said, "Hey, Elissa, could you join this meeting? We've got some questions for you, and I think that you have some value to add. I think that you could help us move through some of these questions." If I joined that meeting and I thought, wow, that's really cool, they see some value, I'm going to help guide them. There's someone else in the room that's in control of the conversation. They're the hero, but they're bringing me in to give some input and perhaps share some of my knowledge. You could actually be thinking the exact same thing when you go into an interview. You already have the evidence that you have value, or they wouldn't have picked up the phone to call you for that phone screen. They wouldn't have moved you on to the interview with the panel or the hiring manager if they didn't see value in you. So you can walk into that feeling kind of great, that wow, I'm here for a reason. I'm here because I have something to share, and I can be a guide to show them how I fit with the pain points that are in this job description. You do that through three ways in terms of developing yourself and seeing yourself as the guide. The main reason you do that is because you have belief in yourself. If we think about the confidence level that the guide has, Obi-Wan knew what he could do. He could go in and he could have, destroyed everything in a heartbeat. It would have been a much more boring story, but he had that belief. Same thing, Yoda. You know exactly what you're capable of doing because you've already connected your accomplishments with your transferable skills, and you've lined those up with the job description. Then you're increasing belief in yourself that you actually are the solution. You also want to believe in your value add. That's where you go a little bit deeper into those accomplishments. And you want to believe in your prospective employer. In the equation of, Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Luke, Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi actually believed in Luke when he didn't believe in himself. As the guide, you want to include the belief of the person on the other side of the screen, the person on the other side of the desk, into this equation, that they're actually going to see something of value in you. So let's talk a little bit more about belief in yourself. Well, this all comes down to your strengths, the things that you've identified. I recommend jumping into assessments. There's one that I use in my practice that is an incredible tool for helping to identify your behavioral strengths, what brings you into a workplace and helps you show up and create those successes and accomplishments. But there's many out there, websites that can help you understand what makes you tick so that you can more clearly articulate what your strengths are. You've got the hard skills, you've got the certifications or the experience. Hone in on those and use those as evidence to believe in yourself, and also these various traits and characteristics that you have. Like I said earlier, are you the person that everybody goes to? Are you the person that people turn to in a crisis when everything's falling apart? Are you the one that's stable in that situation? Think about those personality traits and characteristics that you have that have helped you guide success and create solutions for yourself, for your team, and for your company. It's a great way to start believing in yourself. If you have a hard time with that, and some people do, one of the things I recommend is called a doubt download. In that, in that process, what you do is almost a stream of consciousness. Just write down every weird, creepy thought that your brain is serving up for you and get it all out of your system. And again, writing it is so powerful, and you just keep writing until you can't think of anymore. And don't judge those bad thoughts. For those of us who like to be positive and believe in positive mental attitude, sometimes it's easy to judge, well, I shouldn't be thinking that. I shouldn't be thinking that I have no business applying for that job. Why would I think that? I'm totally qualified. But if that's a thought in your brain, you want to get it out. You want to clean that out and then start replacing it with the things that you know you can do, the things that you're proud of. Those are the things that I want you to focus on, the traits and qualities you already have, you bring to the table, if that makes sense. That's a great way to do it, and just to refill that space. Because when you start resisting those self-defeating thoughts, they just get stronger. It's like you push and they push back. So instead of pushing, just open the door and release and get them all out. Now, the belief in your value add is tied to those accomplishments. Be super duper clear on your accomplishments at all times. And it is difficult because nobody teaches us how to do this. But before you go into an interview, spend some time thinking about your accomplishments. Think about one that you're most proud of first, whether it's related to the job or not. Use that to turn on those brain chemicals, and then put the job description down and start lining up those pain points, those outcomes, with accomplishments that you have that are tied to those bits in the job description. It's also about the results you've created. Have those top of mind and remind yourself of what you've come through and the results you've created and the relationships that you've forged. The results aren't always hard results. Sometimes they are winning over someone who was not a fan at first. Those count too as a result. So write those down and then think about the impact that your accomplishments and results had. There may have been something that came across your desk or a project that had a short timeline that totally turned something around. And it can be an individual contribution that regards to impact, but don't discount your impact when you're part of a team accomplishment. One of the things I always remind my clients is, listen, on Oscar night, when they name Best Picture, everybody goes up on stage. Everybody, not just the producer, not just the director. Best Picture, that accomplishment is a team accomplishment. And you get to be recognized for that team accomplishment. You get to count that as something that you participated in and that you played a role with that impact. If you weren't there, chances are something about that accomplishment, something about that impact may not have happened. And lastly, belief in your prospective employer. And this sounds a little counterintuitive. Going into an interview, believing that someone is going to see your value is a really powerful place, because now you're not there to convince them. You're there and they're going to convince themselves that you're the person that they need. That's what that belief does. It takes you out of an energy where you feel desperate and graspy into an energy that they're going to believe in you because you're someone that brings all this great stuff to the table. You're someone that has options. And when someone has options and you walk in and knowing that you do, then you become a very desirable candidate. They want to snap you up, but you got to go in believing that they're going to see that in you, that willingness to see your value and also see your potential. I'm a big football fan. I'm not an athlete, but I love football. It's my favorite sport. And one of the reasons I love it is because there's this amazing way that they recruit people onto the team. They are looking at their past, but we all know that we've seen college players that get drafted and they just can't make the transition, right? Something happens. And we see people like Tom Brady, who was way down the line, but at some point, someone saw some potential in him, and he especially saw potential in himself. And that's what I love about football is they're recruiting based on the value of the past, but also the potential for contribution in the future. And you need to believe that about yourself before anybody else is going to believe that about you. You're going to show them what outcomes, what value, and what success looks like as a result of your work, both in the past and in the future. When you start talking with the hiring manager or with a panel in terms of connecting the dots between your using transferable skills, let's say, to connect the dots between your past and your future, it's those transferable skills and interlacing those into the stories that you tell and the way you answer questions that's going to paint that picture for them. Because now they're going to see you as your contribution in the future and not just, oh, well, yeah, you did that because you were there in the past. Those transferable skills are that way to connect the dots. Those accomplishments are that way to connect the dots between your past and the future that you can create inside of an organization. Now, somebody told me a long time ago that a sale is just a transfer of belief and enthusiasm. And it's kind of true when you think about it. When someone's making a sale to you, either in an ad or you happen to be making a big purchase, the reason you buy it is because of that belief that they have in their product and that enthusiasm that they have for their product. It's the same reason you're going to get hired. When you believe in yourself and you communicate enthusiasm for yourself and the success that you're going to bring to the role, the other person on the other side believes too. It's like a tuning fork inside of a concert hall that's empty of people, but it's full of tuning forks, right? An empty concert hall full of tuning forks. All you have to do is strike one, and every single other tuning fork in that concert hall is going to start vibrating at the same frequency. This is physics. This is when you have that belief and enthusiasm, it is absolutely going to transfer to the other person. So why do people buy things? It's because they catch a vision of what life is like after they make that purchase, that the physical problem is solved, that the emotional pain point is relieved, and that their life has added value because they made that purchase. And it's exactly the way you're going to get hired, because they see their value and they envision the result. And the bottom line for all of it, why we buy things and why people get hired, is because life is better. As a hiring manager in my past, if I sat down to an interview and I got this sense that this person really gets me, they understand the job description, they're communicating with me in a way that is conversational and ties in their experience with my pain points and me feeling need to be heard in that moment, suddenly I feel like, oh my gosh, this person gets me. My life is going to be better. This company is going to be better. That's the bottom line, is life is better when you catch that vision and you can start to paint the picture for yourself of what life looks like after you get hired. So hope you've had your Red Bull. We can ask some questions now. Maybe you can read them off to me since I'm still got my screen up, but I'm happy to answer anything that somebody.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm going to take a little sip
We
as
have
well.
had a question come through. Do you mind if I just close your window? The
Yeah,
slide?
yeah, yes.
Not yet. I haven't had my Red Bull, but you win best talk so far because you're the only person to do a Star Wars reference. So you win best talk just for all your Star Wars references.
All right. You made my week. You made my week. That's great. That's great.
So yeah, we do have a question here. Only one question at the moment. Could you please share any good websites or resources to help identify strengths and skills?
Yes, I can. Truity is one I really like. I think it's spelled Truity. They have many different assessments that you can try out. Now, you see part of it for free, and to get the rest of the assessment, I think it's typically like $20 or something, but it's definitely well worth it. And they've got a wide variety, and some of them are very career focused. There's a really good one in there, which really, if you're feeling like you need to make a pivot and you feel like, hey, I'm not sure that that I'm actually in the right role because I was hating life and I'm kind of relieved. Sometimes you feel a little guilty that you feel relieved that you got let go because you didn't love it anyway. Well, Trudy has a really great assessment on there that will help you identify, based on your transferable skills and strengths, what other career options might be good for you. That's a great one. My favorite, another favorite one, other than the one I use in my practice, which isn't publicly available, but one that is publicly available that I love and has served me extremely well in my career changes, is the Clifton Strengths assessment that is now owned by Gallup. So if you go to Gallup, you could just Google Gallup Strength Assessment. It'll take you right to the page. Again, $20, and you get your top 5 strengths. It costs a little bit more than that to get all 34 strengths that their assessment measures, but the descriptions are amazing, and you really have a chance to like have this aha moment about yourself. And I use them. I always recommend my clients use it for interview prep. Read that. If there's something in those assessment that really resonates with you, and you feel like you identify with it, then you can just transcribe that phrase, those words, into your resume, into your professional summary, things that really help describe you, and you're like, oh yeah, that is me. That's how I show up. I love it for that purpose as well. So yeah, Truity and Gallup Clifton Strengths Finders are two that are readily accessible.
Fantastic, brilliant. And we don't have any more questions you through yet, but if anyone does have any questions, please use the ask a question function down below.
Okay.
This will be recorded, by the way, so if people are watching this back and they do have a question for you, what's the best way of getting hold of you?
Yep. Well, if you want to let me present again, I can put my contact info up. There we go, my final screen.
Sorry, it's not shared anymore.
Okay, let's see. Let me back out and just share it one more time. There we go. Okay, there.
Oh,
we good?
Yeah, perfect. Yes.
Okay. So you can contact me on LinkedIn. Definitely, if we're not already connected, definitely send me a connection request. Be happy to accept and have a little conversation if necessary. My email is elissa@es-strategic.com. You can also find resources and courses. I have some on Teachable, and that's called loveyourworklife.teachable.com. And you do need to have the dashes in between Love Your Work Life at Teachable. And my website is es-strategicservices.com. Those are also great places to reach me. And on all of those, especially with the website, I do have my my social links there as well. So I've got some videos on YouTube. I'm launching a podcast this month, so I'm super excited about that. But yeah, definitely connect with me. I do free resume reviews, and I also offer 30-minute interview insight calls. So if you find yourself where you're not even getting any hits at all, then maybe there's something that you need to work on with your resume. We can figure that out. If you are getting seen and your resume is getting through and you're getting interviews, but you're not getting offers, then maybe that little interview insights call could be help, and we can identify some of the things that might be going sideways in your interviews. And then I have, services when you check out either Love Your Work Life or ES Strategic. You can see what my coaching programs are all about and the pricing as well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We don't have any more questions through yet. So what I think is best is that I'm going to be sending this out to all 852 people, all the recordings. So
wonderful.
At the back of that last bit, you will get some people asking you questions.
Yes, that is no problem. I know I will be happy to ask. And of course, if someone feels a little bit more comfortable asking a question privately and we connect, then ask me the question on LinkedIn. Easy peasy.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. And again, I love the Star Wars references. It was amazing. I'm actually quite, when you said the first one, I was actually amazed. I'm like, no one else has said a Star Wars reference yet. What's that?
I know. It's true. I know. It's a universal language, right? So,
it really is. It touches most people's hearts, doesn't it? So
yes,
look,
it does.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for the time. All right.
There's some, the chat on the side, brilliant presentation. Thank you so much. Tons and tons of really, really great and positive support there. So excellent. Thank you so much for your time. And
all right. Thank you, Neil. We'll see ya.
Take care.